What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer. We are a little more than a month into 2022, and already things are starting to look pretty sus when it comes to Overwatch and Overwatch 2. From big time streamers randomly deciding to suddenly start playing Overwatch again, to the devs themselves acknowledging that there will apparently be more new skins added to Overwatch this year than any year prior, and even the discovery of Overwatch 2.0 within the files of Battle.net. So in today's video, I want to cover all the information that's come out over the past month or so, which seems to be hinting at some sort of upcoming announcement or development for Overwatch 2. Now, to start discussing the sequence of leaks, which are potentially pointing towards Overwatch 2, we actually have to go back a little bit farther past the start of 2022, as I think it all really began to kick off in December of 2021. Most notably, I think the big thing that sort of started all this discussion within the community was a particular NDA meeting which many content creators had with Blizzard. Now, as one of these content creators, I cannot and will not discuss any of the specifics regarding this particular meeting, but I will highlight some of the public responses other content creators made following this event. In general, there seemed to be a fairly positive sentiment towards the future of Overwatch from the people who are a part of this meeting, which I believe, in the public's eye, was the first thing to really get the ball rolling when it comes to the other leaks and interesting statements that I'm about to cover. Moving forward to January 2022, the first half of this month was honestly pretty slow and quiet. There really weren't many official statements from the devs themselves or anything noteworthy in terms of the community finding anything, until around mid-January we got a post on the Overwatch forums from one of the Overwatch community managers talking about how for the first couple weeks of January they'd been heads down on planning the new year to come, and apologized for not being super visible and active because of it. However, they concluded their post by specifying, "Give me a few more weeks and then I'll be a different kind of busy, but more able to jump in here on the forums." A different kind of busy. Interesting. Could just be nothing, could just be saying that, different things happen through different phases of a game's development, but it is sort of interesting that he specified a different kind of busy in a few weeks from mid-January, which is exceptionally curious when you consider some of the other things I'm about to discuss. Jumping even farther forward to the latter part of January, we got the 2022 Overwatch Lunar New Year event, which was by and large pretty poorly received by the community due to the lack of content it contained, but there were a number of interesting statements made by Blizzard surrounding this event. Perhaps most notably being a statement made by the same Overwatch community manager I just talked about, who said that while they acknowledged that the 2022 Lunar New Year event was a bit lackluster, there are evidently going to be more new skins added to Overwatch in 2022 than any year prior. Now, I already made a video discussing this statement specifically and going in depth with what exactly it means, but basically this is a really tall order for them to deliver on. More skins than any year previous? Is that including the base legendary skins that every hero got by default when they were added to the game back in 2016 when the game launched? Because if so, then you're looking at 80 plus new skins which were added in 2016. Or even if they're just talking about event legendary skins, there have been years where every event had 6 new legendary skins added with it, and seeing as how Overwatch this year is already a bit behind in that regard, considering that the Lunar New Year event only had 2 new legendary skins added, it seems like there could be some big things coming around the corner later this year, at least when it comes to the skins department. But as if this statement wasn't interesting enough, this exact same day we also got a statement from Mike Ybarra, the president of Blizzard Entertainment, stating that more exciting Overwatch news will be coming in the following weeks. It's also worth mentioning that this statement was actually a sort of follow-up to a statement he made the week prior, where he was talking about big things coming from multiple Blizzard titles during the week that the Lunar New Year launched. And while in that original statement he didn't specify that Overwatch would be part of the things he had to say during the week of Lunar New Year, his second statement, which was posted on his Twitter account, very clearly specifies that Overwatch is one of the titles that is going to have something exciting coming in the seemingly not too distant future. But even outside of statements made by people who work for Blizzard during this time period, there were a number of other strange happenings, particularly within the streamer community. A handful of big-time streamers, such as Dr. Disrespect, Tim the Tatman, and Seagull, suddenly out of nowhere decided to start playing Overwatch again. They didn't seem to provide any specific reason for why they were coming back to the game now out of any time in the past couple years, but lo and behold, they did jump on to play the game again, and maybe it was just a coincidence that they decided excited to start playing it again now because it's been a while since they've done it, or maybe they had a more specific reason in mind. Honestly, I could see it going either way. Maybe they know something, maybe they don't, but certainly it's something worth considering and paying attention to when trying to build up a picture of what all is happening with Overwatch and Overwatch 2 at this point. But amidst all these little teasers and interesting tidbits and suspicions about what's coming down the pipeline in the near future, undeniably in my opinion, the biggest smoking gun when it comes to imminent announcements and developments for Overwatch 2 was the recent discovery of Overwatch 2.0 as one of the Overwatch dev builds within Battle.net. Now, this information comes from BlizzTrack, which is a website dedicated to tracking updates and back-end developments within the Battle.net launcher for not just Overwatch, but also World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, and literally any of the games that are accessible via Battle.net. And in doing so, BlizzTrack is capable of keeping tabs on not only the publicly accessible and playable versions of these games, but also upcoming and secret builds which haven't yet been officially made public. Typically over the years, we've mainly just seen upcoming versions of the game show up here that in and of themselves don't really contain anything particularly interesting since you're just looking at a version number and then some of the code associated with it. But on the evening of February 3rd, a very unique, never before seen build appeared under the Overwatch dev versions, which is Overwatch 2.0. Now, for context, ever since Overwatch first launched back in 2016, it has always been a 1.0 version of the game. Of course, when it first launched, it was 1.0, and then with the first major update, it was 1.1, then 1.2, all the way up to 1.68, which was the latest one we saw in the Overwatch dev versions, and is presumably going to be the next live version of the game we end up getting, probably sometime in the very near future. Before then, all of a sudden, it shifted to Overwatch 2.0. And if that in and of itself wasn't suspicious enough, less than a day after the 2.0 version was discovered, the Overwatch dev version on Battle.net rolled back to 1.5. Almost as if Blizzard realized their little update had been discovered and were swiftly trying to cover their tracks. And if even this wasn't tremendously suspicious, it's also worth noting that around the same time as the Overwatch dev version being rolled back to 1.5, we saw the appearance of another Overwatch version called Overwatch Demo 2, which itself seemed to have been a follow-up to Overwatch Demo, which had appeared 2 days prior. And all three of these, I might mention, are a 1.50 variant. Now that is suspicious. Now, understandably, the community has been rather excited following all the things I discussed in this video, particularly the discovery of the 2.0 version of Overwatch on Battle.net, but unfortunately, we just don't have much more concrete information to work off of beyond this. One of the most common theories I've seen thrown around is that the 2.0 version of Overwatch is actually an upcoming beta, and that the reason it's gone to Battle.net is that they're testing stability, or at least prepping the build in some way, in order for the public to be able to get their hands on it, and while it certainly seems like that could be the case, I would also like to remind you that the upcoming 2022 Overwatch League season, which is scheduled to begin in April, is going to be played on some early build of Overwatch 2. So for all we know, this 2.0 version of Overwatch that was discovered in Battle.net could in some way only be tied to that. Perhaps Blizzard is just testing out a build that they're only going to end up distributing to pro players within the next month or so that they can practice and get used to the new 5v5 system and whatever other changes end up going through for the early Overwatch League build of Overwatch 2 before the season actually begins, and they're going to be expected to, play the game at a professional level. If that's the case, then sadly that might mean that we as the general public won't actually get access to this build, at least not anytime soon, which would, suck. Speaking of betas though, I will also mention a sort of reoccurring sentiment I've been seeing over the past month or so within the Overwatch community, where people are latching on to different things that streamers or developers or content creators said and deducing that it means there's going to be a beta coming within the next few weeks. And after looking through all these different statements that people have made and the different sources they're citing for it, unfortunately I can't find anything concrete to go off of in this regard, as most of the statements I think can easily be written off as just people being optimistic about what might be coming in the near future. Like, for example, I could say, I hope we get a beta soon. And that's not any official statement, because I legitimately just hope we get a beta soon because I want to play Overwatch 2 as much as the rest of you. And me saying, I hope we get a beta soon isn't confirmation of anything because it's just what I want. And that seems to be the extent of most of the statements I've seen people latch onto as potential evidence of an upcoming beta sometime in the near future. But at this point, the only beta evidence I find to be particularly convincing at all is the existence of the Overwatch 2.0 build and the corresponding demo versions, which certainly seem to be pointing towards something of that capacity, but again, we don't know what form exactly it'll ultimately end up manifesting in, so I would advise against getting your hopes up for there being some sort of Overwatch 2 beta in the immediate future, simply because we don't have that much information about what's actually going to be happening, and while it certainly seems like there are wheels turning at this point when it comes to Overwatch 2 and prepping for some kind of playable version in the near future, which, as I said, could easily end up being a version that is playable, but we don't actually get to play it because we're not pro players, I do think we are going to be seeing some sort of announcements for content to come in the near future, hopefully before the end of February, because if nothing else, Overwatch League is going to be played on an Overwatch 2 build, and that means there's a lot of stuff Blizzard has to sort of inform people of prior to that happening. For example, we have yet to see the reworks for many of the Overwatch 1 heroes that have been confirmed to be getting some sort of rework. And assuming what Overwatch game director Aaron Keller said back in September still holds true, then the Overwatch League in April will be played with the entire original cast of heroes, in addition to possibly some newcomers. Which, if especially that ends up being the case, then certainly I imagine Blizzard is going to be saying or showing us something regarding these new heroes in the near future, because if they just premiered the Overwatch League in April and all of a sudden someone's playing Junker Queen, I don't know, I just feel like there's a better way for them to handle the reveal of a hero than for them to just suddenly show them in the league. Nevertheless though, it does certainly seem like some interesting things are devolving when it comes to Overwatch and Overwatch 2 as we speak, and while we definitely don't have any sort of clear timeline about when we're going to actually get our hands on Overwatch 2 or some sort of beta version of it, the various dev statements and unintentional leaks definitely are pointing towards some big things happening in the near future, which are certainly worth getting excited about. And of course, I'll be keeping you all up to date on any major announcements and news developments that do end up happening with Overwatch 2 right here on my channel, so be sure to subscribe to not miss out on any of those, and let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. Do you think we're going to end up getting some sort of public Overwatch 2 beta in the imminent future? Or do you think everyone's just getting a little too excited about things that might actually not be quite as close as we think they are? Either way, I'd love to hear from you, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to hang out and never miss any of my future Overwatch content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible. If you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.